Okay, so let's dive in. Imagine this. Just one single image, right? It sparks this entire incredible world. You've got this visionary director, Fritz Lang, and he's just completely captivated by the skyscrapers in New York City back in 1924. They looked almost alien to him. Then he goes back to Germany, and fueled by that image, he creates something, well, truly groundbreaking. A film that people would still be talking about a century later.
It's amazing, isn't it, that one specific moment? That trip really did lay the groundwork for what we're looking into today. Fritz Lang's 1927 masterpiece, Metropolis, German expressionist science fiction silent film. Quite a combination.
And that's exactly our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack the essential stuff about this incredible piece of cinema. We're digging into its visuals, which were just revolutionary, its story, which is surprisingly deep, and, it's really unexpected journey through how people saw it and how it got pieced back together. We've gathered a whole load of sources so you, our listener, can get a really solid understanding of one of the most influential films ever.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating, I think, is that Metropolis isn't just a film. It's a foundational text for sci-fi movies. It really was one of the very first full-length science fiction films. And it didn't just pioneer the genre. It basically set the template for the whole urban dystopia thing, the kind of thing you see echoed in Blade Runner, The Matrix, all that stuff. It just shows how powerful cinema can be in shaping how we imagine the future, and maybe our fears about it too.
That's a really great point. So besides Lang himself, who else on the team was really pushing the envelope, maybe in ways we don't always think about?
Oh, the talent pool was immense. Lang directed, obviously, but the script was actually a team effort between him and Thea von Harbou. She'd written the novel it was based on in 1925, sort of intending it as a film treatment already. And you had Eric Palmer producing for UFA, the big German studio. The cast was fantastic, too. Gustav Fröhlich as Freder, Alfred Abel as Joff Fredersen, Rudolf Kleinraj as Rotwang, the inventor, and of course the absolutely iconic Brigitte Helm. She played both Maria and the machine human, the Maschinenmensch, a huge dual role.
Right, and all this is happening in Germany during the Weimar Republic. A really turbulent time, socially and politically. You mentioned the budget earlier, 5.3 million Reichsmarks. That sounds, well, astronomical. About 21 million euros today, you said? Mm-hmm. What kind of crazy creative risks did that kind of money let them take? It was UFA's costliest and most ambitious picture ever, after all.
Well, it wasn't just about, spending money. It allowed for world building on a scale nobody had really seen before. The film just drops you into this futuristic city, Metropolis, which is split right down the middle. You've got the rich industrialists living it up in these massive skyscrapers way above ground. And then underneath, there's this whole hidden workforce just toiling away endlessly to keep the city's machines running. And Joff Fredersen is the master of it all.
And into this really stark world comes Freder. He's Fredersen's son, rich kid, living a pretty easy life. But then his whole world gets turned upside down when he sees Maria. She's like this saintly figure to the workers, and she brings their kids up to see how the rich live. Freder is just fascinated. What's so powerful about that first meeting?
It sets up the core conflict immediately, doesn't it? Freder and Maria trying to somehow bridge this massive gap between the classes. It feels almost impossible. It's more than just class struggle, though. It's about empathy, connection, finding a mediator between the head, the planners, the thinkers, the bosses, and the hands, or the workers.
And the plot just keeps hammering those themes home.
Yeah.
Like when Freder goes down to the lower levels, it's not just a change of scene, is it? He sees a machine explode, and he hallucinates it as this horrifying monster, Moloch, literally eating the workers. Yeah. For me, that's not just plot. It's this incredibly powerful comment on how dehumanizing industry can be when it's unchecked. It's his wake-up call, right? Yeah. Drives him to help the workers, get Josephat, his father's fire assistant, involved.
Exactly. And meanwhile, Joff Fredersen, the father, he's getting worried, finds these strange maps on some workers who died. So he goes to see Rotwang, this brilliant, maybe slightly unhinged inventor. And we find out about Rotwang's past. He was in love with Hel, who is Freder's mother, now deceased. And his robot, well, he originally built it to somehow resurrect her. That adds such a fascinating layer to Rotwang, doesn't it? It's almost tragic, this obsession. Do you think that personal angle makes him a better villain than just your standard mad scientist?
Oh, absolutely. It gives him this psychological depth. He's not just mad. He's driven by grief, by this really twisted sense of love almost. Makes him way more compelling. And this is where it gets really twisted. Fredersen and Rotwang find these catacombs where Maria is preaching to the workers about a mediator who will come. Freder hears this, thinks he must be the mediator, and he falls completely for Maria.
But Fredersen, he just wants to shut Maria down, discredit her. So he orders Rotwang to make the robot look exactly like her. He totally misses Rotwang's actual plan, which is much darker. Rotwang wants revenge. He wants to destroy the whole city and kill Freder, his rival's son. So the false Maria starts preaching rebellion, whips the workers into a frenzy. They smash the machines, which leads to this catastrophic flood down below, threatening their own children.
It's just pure chaos.
Yeah.
But the real Maria, she manages to escape from Rotwang, and heroically, she saves the kids, with help from Freder and Josephat. Then the workers, totally hysterical and furious, they capture the false Maria and burn her at the stake. But the fire just reveals what she really is, metal and wires.
A robot. And then the climax. Rotwang completely loses it. He thinks the real Maria is Hel, the woman he lost. He chases her up onto the roof of the cathedral. Freder goes after him. There's this dramatic fight, and Rotwang falls to his death. The film ends with Freder basically fulfilling that prophecy. He links the hands of his father, Fredersen, the head, and Grot, the foreman of the main machine, representing the hands. He brings them together.
Yeah, and that final title card just spells it out. The mediator between the head and the hands must be the heart.
It's such a powerful, almost hopeful ending to this massive industrial kind of bleak story.
And visually, you just can't overstate the grandeur of Metropolis. The art direction is phenomenal. Otto Hunte, Eric Kettelhut, Carl Volbrecht. What they created is just, it's the soul of the film, really. Every single shot could be a painting. It's like this amazing mix of styles. You see bits of opera stage design, Bauhaus, Cubism, Futurism, even Gothic architecture. And the city itself, you can really see that Art Deco influence, which was huge back then in Europe and America. Plus, Lang himself saying his big inspiration was seeing those New York skyscrapers for the first time in 24. He called them a vertical sail, didn't he?
Absolutely. And the way they achieved those visuals, I mean, the special effects by Eugen Schifftan were just revolutionary. We're talking miniatures, cameras on swings, and most famously, the Schifftan process, using mirrors, basically, to make it look like real actors were inside these incredible miniature sets. It wasn't just a clever trick. It was like a whole new way of visual storytelling. It let them build these huge, believable fantasy worlds way before computers could do it. Just amazing ingenuity with mirrors and models.
And then you have the robot, the Maschinenmensch, still one of the most iconic designs ever. Walter Schultz-Mittendorf designed it. They literally built it around a plaster cast of Brigitte Helm's whole body.
Yeah.
Made it out of something called plastic wood, apparently, to get that metallic but slightly bendy look. Incredible.
But playing that role sounds like it was hellish for Helm. She got cuts and bruises because the costume was so rigid. And apparently she fainted during the transformation scene because she just couldn't breathe properly inside it. The whole shoot was grueling. Took, 17 months, 310 days, 60 nights of filming. It makes you wonder, how much of Lang's genius maybe crossed the line into just pushing people too hard, especially those kids.
Yeah, it paints this picture of Lang being incredibly intense, maybe obsessive. You do wonder, where's the line between artistic vision and, well, maybe just being a bit tyrannical. Though, interestingly, Thea von Harbo, the writer, she saw it differently. She said for the poor kids hired as extras, the set was like a haven. Warm rooms, toys, food. Much better than their actual lives.
Yeah.
So, two sides to it, maybe.
A very fine line. Beyond the look, though, the film had this whole original sound dimension, even as a silent film. Gottfried Huppertz composed this big orchestral score, inspired by Wagner, Strauss. He even wove in bits of La Marseillaise and the De Désiré, and that detail about Huppertz actually playing piano on the set while they filmed. That's amazing. How much do you think that live music shaped the actors' performances, even without spoken dialogue?
It's incredible, right? Like he was conducting their emotions in real time. But sadly, that amazing score Huppertz wrote, it was only performed with the film once at the very first premiere. The full score wasn't actually recorded properly until 2001.
Wow. Still, Metropolis itself has inspired so many other musicians and composers over the years to create their own soundtracks. I think that really says something about how powerful and open to interpretation the film is. It keeps resonating.
Oh, yeah. The most famous, or maybe notorious example, is probably Giorgio Moroder's version from 1984. He cut the film down to about 80 minutes and added this, full-on 80s pop soundtrack. You had Freddie Mercury singing Love Kills, Bonnie Tyler singing Here She Comes. That Bonnie Tyler track even got a Grammy nomination.
Yeah, Moroder's version definitely stirred things up. A lot of purists hated it, but his defense was interesting. I didn't touch the original because there is no original, which at the time was kind of true. The film was so fragmented, it really highlighted the need for a proper restoration. And since then, you've had others too. Jeff Mills did a techno score, Abel Kurseniowski did a new orchestral one, Factory Floor did an electronic soundtrack. It just keeps inspiring people.
It's funny, though, looking back at the initial reaction to Metropolis, it was really mixed, wasn't it? Which seems crazy now, given its status. Critics loved the visuals, the effects were stunning, everyone agreed on that. But the story, a lot of people called it naive, silly. I think H.G. Wells famously called it quite the silliest film. Plus, it was really long, and some people got worked up about supposed communist messages.
Exactly. That naive criticism is fascinating when you think about how influential it became. And the film itself got butchered pretty quickly. The original ran about 153 minutes, but after the German premiere, it got heavily cut. The U.S. distributors, per Filmit, hired a playwright, Channing Pollock, to basically hack it down and make it more palatable. They even took out the name Hell for Rotwang's Lost Love because it sounded too much like hell for American audiences. Lang absolutely hated those changes. And then later, this German nationalist guy, Alfred Hugenberg, cut it even more, taking out bits he thought were too pro-communist or too religious.
Lang's own feelings about it later on were pretty complicated too, weren't they? He apparently called it silly and stupid at one point, though he also said seeing astronauts later made him kind of rethink it. It's interesting how artists grapple with their own work over time, especially when it takes on a life of its own. And you have to remember, his dislike was also tangled up with the fact that the Nazis became weirdly fascinated by the film. And his wife at the time, Thea von Harbu, actually joined the Nazi Party, which prompted Lang to leave for the U.S. So, lots of baggage there.
Definitely complex. But despite all that, Metropolis is now just cemented as one of the all-time greats. Constantly ranks high in critic polls, hugely influential.
And get this, in 2001, Metropolis became the very first film ever put on UNESCO's Memory of the World Register. That's like saying this isn't just a movie, it's a crucial piece of global cultural heritage. Huge deal.
It really is. And just a quick note on the rights, it's kind of interesting. The U.S. copyright actually expired, so as of January 1st, 2023, it's public domain in the States. But in Germany and the rest of the EU, it's still under copyright until the end of 2046. So how it's treated varies depending on where you are. Important for preservation and access.
Speaking of preservation.
Yeah.
The story of how Metropolis got restored is like a movie in itself, a real detective story.
Yeah.
For decades, that original long version was just lost. People only saw these chopped up versions, sometimes missing almost a quarter of the film.
Yeah, people tried to piece it back together starting way back in the 70s. That Giorgio Moroder version in '84, despite the controversial music, was actually one of the first serious attempts at a big reconstruction.
Yeah.
It showed people cared enough to try and find the missing pieces.
But the real game changer came in 2008. Unbelievably, they found a 16mm copy, a negative of the original cut, in a film museum down in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It had about 25 minutes of footage nobody had seen since 1927. Can you imagine finding that? Just incredible.
And it didn't stop there. Later, they found even more missing bits, like 11 scenes, in another print discovered in New Zealand. These finds were just revolutionary for understanding the film.
So with these amazing discoveries, plus modern digital restoration tools, and crucially, Huppert's original score to guide them, they were finally able to create the complete Metropolis in 2010. It's the closest we've ever gotten. Runs about 148 minutes. And it's amazing what it revealed. Whole subplots and character arcs deepened, like for Josephat, the Thin Man spy. And it fully brought back the character of Hell and her backstory, which makes Rotwang's motivations so much clearer. It really transformed the film.
And the film's influence just keeps rippling outwards. It's been adapted for the stage. There was a musical back in 1989, and Sam Esmail, the guy behind Mr. Robot, was planning a big TV miniseries for Apple TV Plus Patho. I think that eventually got canceled. Still, shows the interest is there.
Yeah, and not just live action. Osamu Tezuka, the manga god, did a Metropolis manga, which then became an anime film in 2001. And the crazy thing is, apparently, Tezuka had only ever seen one single still photo from Lang's film when he created his version. That's how potent the imagery is.
It really is everywhere in pop culture. Musically, you hear its themes in David Bowie's Diamond Dogs. Kraftwerk has that track Metropolis. Even Motorhead has a song called Metropolis. And Janelle Monáe's whole early concept albums, Metropolis, Sweet Eye, and The Arch Android, are direct, loving homages.
And visually, forget about it. C-3PO's design in Star Wars. Straight up inspired by the Machine Mensch.
Right.
Queen's Radio Gaga video uses actual film clips. They even put Freddie Mercury's face on the robot. Madonna's Express Yourself video. Whitney Houston's Queen of the Night. Clear visual nods. Even on RuPaul's Drag Race, there is a character called Maria the Robot.
It pops up in comics like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and Doctor Who audio drama. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Its reach is just phenomenal.
So, yeah, wrapping up this deep dive. It's crystal clear Metropolis is way more than just cool-looking old movie or a historical curiosity. Its impact on film, on culture. You can still feel it strongly today.
Absolutely. And maybe, as you, our listener, think about this incredible film. Think about that core message. The mediator between the head and the hands must be the heart. What does that actually mean for us now? In our world, with technology, AI, automation constantly changing things, often creating new kinds of divides between the innovators and the workforce, or just between different groups of people.
Right. How does this film, almost 100 years old, still talk to the splits we see today? And what part could the heart, empathy, connection, humanity, what part could that play for you in bridging those gaps? We definitely encourage you. Go find the film. Try to watch the 2010 restoration if you can, and just sit with those big, enduring questions it asks.